Hello and welcome back to All My Life, the podcast where we take deep dives into lifelong discipleship.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You got it.
It's always a mouthful.
You nailed it.
My name is Emma Farina, one of your hosts.
And I'm Ryan O'Hara, one of your hosts.
And today we have the privilege of having Katie Huetteman with us.
Hello.
Yo.
Welcome.
Thanks
you.
for
Making the trek over.
Yeah. Good to be here.
Katie's a missionary at the U of M, correct? University of Minnesota.
Yes.
And kind of how many years have you been serving with SPO? Because I know you were serving other places as well before this.
Yes. So this is my 5th year as a missionary with SPO. And my first 2 years I was in Ohio, and then 3 and 4 I was in Florida. So year 5 in Minnesota.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. That's so cool. You got to kind of like bop around and see all the different cultures and.
Yeah. Very different. All 3 of those places. Yeah. Very different climates and very different cultures.
Mm-hmm. What's kind of like the unique thing about each of those locations?
Well, I would say Columbus was the first city I lived in, like in the actual city. We were right on the edge. The campus is right on the edge of the city. And it was my first time living in the Midwest. So I grew up in Florida, and I have lived there basically my whole life until I moved to Ohio. So that was unique for me. And then moving back to Florida, I went to Florida State for undergrad, and that was where I moved back for my years 3 and 4 as a missionary. So it was like coming back home. Yeah. Very small town for the capital. For a capital city, it's very, very small, very quaint.
So you're in Minnesota now, and people will start to know that I love Minnesota. Mm-hmm. Best place I've ever lived. Don't want to live anywhere else.
Really?
Oh, yeah, for sure. 100%.
I should get you a Minnesota shirt. Like,
I know.
Like I love Minnesota.
I do. I absolutely do. And you will too if you don't already. This will be the place that you'll never want to leave. Just letting you know that. About your future.
That's what I've heard.
Is that cool?
That's what I've heard. My teammates in Ohio used to joke that all roads lead to Minnesota. And so I knew sooner or later I'd end up here. So it was only a matter of time. There
is some study out there, I'm totally making this up, but I think it might be true, that a lot of people, when they move here, they're like, we're done. We're never moving anywhere else. This is the best place. And it's sort of counterintuitive because of all the cold temps. But
yeah, for reference, today it's like -9 degrees out without wind chill.
Yeah.
So,
and that's wonderful. And the best part is, look how sunny it is. It's bright sun. No, really. Like, that's awesome.
Blue skies.
Oh my gosh. It doesn't get any better than this. The snow is crunchy. The different, that's such a great sound, a look, a feel. What's your favorite part about living in Minnesota that's surprising to you? You'd lived in the Midwest once in Columbus, very different place. Whatever, with the Buckeyes, okay. But tell us, what is your favorite part about living in Minnesota? Something that's underrated, people didn't know, you now know because you've been living here. You're like, I love this place because.
Oh, gosh. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm tempted to say the snow just because I grew up in the South. And it's so new.
Plentiful.
Yeah, there's so much of it, and it doesn't go anywhere. That's the surprising part. It's there all winter. They just push it off the roads, and it sits there in piles.
And it gets higher and higher and higher and higher.
Yeah.
I remember my first winter. This was crazy. My first winter here, 2009. And we're at a little small parish in our neighborhood, St. Mike's in West St. Paul. And the priest had this unusual thing that he would do and he would basically say, he would begin his homily, no joke, with public service announcements, like just PSAs to the people. It was kind of like, he was kind of like an ambassador of the city, and he wanted to like tell people about things going on civically, seriously. And I'll never forget the fact that he reminded us at the beginning of winter that I just want to remind you that the snow is piling up. And when you're driving, he's literally saying this before the homily even started. When you're backing out of your driveways, the pile will be really tall at the end of your driveway because all of the snow is pushed onto the driveway, and then you have to push it away, and the pile gets really high. And you know that when you get back to the end of the driveway, it's hard to see.
Sure.
And so he gave me that public service announcement in a homily.
Which is so helpful if you're not from here.
Yeah.
Accidents could happen all the time. Thank God for priests who give public service announcements. It was actually quite endearing, and it just kind of drew me in to the culture here in Minnesota. So you love the winters. You love the snow.
I do. I mean, you have a good coat and a hat, and you can do anything.
Amen. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The thing that I will say is I'm still getting used to is the risk of falling. That is ever present.
Has it happened yet?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, what happened? Tell us all about that.
I mean,
were people watching?
No, I wish. I always look. Yeah, it's so funny. I always wish that people are around when I fall because I think it's hilarious. And usually no one is. The other day even there was a boot hockey tournament going on at the U of M called Spam Jam. It's a really big deal there. And I was just standing, not even playing boot hockey, and I fell. And there were people all around me, and no one saw.
But are you sure, or they just didn't have they just wanted to protect you and act like they didn't see?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
They were dying inside.
Out of the corner of their eyes.
Then they walked away and laughed at me in secret.
There's probably some video somewhere. I love that. That's great.
So fun little fact, we learned this in the pre-show prep, is that you're very comfortable in front of cameras because you were on, you said high school, you were on your TV show.
Yeah.
And then also might have been in a music video at one point.
The music video is a little bit less anticlimactic.
Okay.
I was a part of a theater group in middle school, and Josh Groban, the music artist, he's excellent. It was the first concert I ever went to, actually. Whenever he's in town, at least at the time, he would invite a performing arts group to come for free to his show and to meet him backstage. And so this little girls theater troupe and I got to meet him before the show and talk to him, and they were video recording it. And then one of his music videos later on was just segments of like him interacting with fans. And so my sister and I are there backstage with like our girl gang talking to him.
How old were you?
Nice. I was probably, how old are you in 8th grade? 13 or 14?
12, 13, yeah.
Yeah, so I was 13 or 14. So I was just standing there.
Is it on YouTube? Can we check it out?
Yeah.
Can we put it in the show notes?
Sure. I'd have to look
up
up which song it is, but yeah, you can check it out.
That's so fun.
That is awesome. I love Josh Groban. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's all I've got to say about that.
Big fans here.
Yeah.
Josh,
That
if you're
guy
listening,
can
we love
sing.
you.
That guy can sing.
When you're
I'll
listening.
tell you what.
He can,
You
he
heard
can.
him. He can sing.
Yeah.
So you've been on mission for many years with SPO. That's where you first got connected in college at Florida State, right?
That's right.
But you've also gone around the world on mission too. We've heard you've even gone to Africa, to Ghana on mission. What was that like, and what kind of impact did that experience have on you?
Mm-hmm. Well, my first experiences of being sent on mission was actually locally in my community back at home. Back where I'm from, migrant communities are really prevalent near my house. And so there was a lot of young children that we would put on a vacation Bible school for over the summer. And so my first experience of mission, I got to experience right in my own community. But my parish actually, the first time I went abroad we had a sister parish in Panama. And so we got to go to Panama, and I hardly speak Spanish, but got to experience mission abroad there. And so that kind of like stirred in me a desire to go abroad again and to experience different opportunities of mission. So when I was in college, I participated in this program called Global Scholars through Florida State University. And I wanted to study abroad, but it was in place of studying abroad, you could go and work for a nonprofit in a developing country. And so I decided to go to Ghana, West Africa, and So I lived there for 3 months and served with a local nonprofit there. And it was incredible. It was an incredible experience. I think probably one of the most life-changing things I've ever done.
Can you say give us a little more as to like what was it that was so impactful, and how did you see life differently after that than before?
Yeah. I mean, so many things. I remember distinctly the first 2 days being there. It was so challenging. It was the first time I had been out of the country by myself. And it was the first time I had flown on an international flight by myself. And I flew into this foreign country trying to find a man that I had only seen over a Skype video one time at this busy airport, with the risk of people like pretending to be him and taking my money or something. And so I was terrified, so out of my comfort zone, and having to figure it out. Like, I was there and I had to keep moving forward. And I remember distinctly the first 2 days thinking, I'm never doing this again. Like, this is terrible. I am so uncomfortable. But I just have to persevere, and I just have to get through this summer. But then I got more comfortable, and I started to see how much of a blessing this opportunity was. I think on a natural level, I was put in a totally new community and got to experience a culture where they are very community-centric. So they share meals together in their house or with their neighbors. Everyone goes to church together on Sundays. Everyone looks out for one another. And coming from a place where I wasn't really involved in my faith in college at that point, and I didn't really have a community. And I now experience on a natural level what it's like to be a part of a people who look after one another, who care for one another. And that just softened my heart a lot towards like the whole experience. I think God had like a lot in store for me on that trip, because my supervising professor for the program actually visited us while we were in Ghana, and she was working on her PhD, which was about students developing their own personal identity in the context of a foreign country. And so the whole time I was there, she was asking me questions, encouraging me to reflect on who am I, what is my identity. So here I am in this foreign country reflecting on who I am and realizing that faith and God is so important to me, and that hasn't been reflected in my life. And so then I'm wrestling with, well, if it's important to me, then I need to be living it out, because I see God as part of my identity, as part of who I am, but that's not reflected in how I'm living. So it was very self-reflective. I had a lot of time. I had a lot of space. I was totally disconnected. I was unable to talk to anybody or really communicate with anyone while I was there, because there's like not cell signal or like easy internet access. So I was just totally removed from my life of busyness and selfishness and school and partying, and plopped in this very Christian communal place.
Did you get to, were you going to Mass regularly at that point? And did you get to continue to do that? Like, what was the religious experience like for you, even though that wasn't exactly what the job was about, but did you have opportunities to go to Mass, or what did that look like?
Yeah. I had been going to Mass. That was something that though I gave up a lot of things when I went to college, that was something I didn't give up. And then going to Ghana, it was important to me to know that I would be able to go to Mass while I was there. And the man who was the founding person of the nonprofit told me that I could. And so there's a local parish. I would take a taxi by myself on Sundays. And the first Sunday I was there was the feast of Christ the King. And it was really beautiful. We got to Mass late because we didn't realize that it started an hour earlier because it was a feast day, I guess. And so we got there late and missed most of it. But we were there at the very end. They were going to do a Eucharistic procession around the town. And so I'm standing in the back, and the priest is processing out with the monstrance, and they're going to go walk around the whole town. And the choir is singing, and everyone is following them. And I was just standing in the back of the church, and he walked by with the monstrance, and I felt like, though I am in this foreign land and I don't know anyone, like I felt like Jesus is here and I know him. So that was my first experience of Mass. And then eventually the hospital that I worked at, I made friends who were Catholic and also went to church. And so I would meet them there and sit with their family and made some friends in the church there. But it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I tried to record as much as I could some of the choir music because their praise is so expressive and so beautiful. There's so many songs that they sing in addition to the songs that we would normally sing at Mass.
You mean in terms of even just number?
Yeah, they just insert a song randomly. Like after the first reading, there's the psalm, and then there's like another song, and then the Alleluia, and then they do another song, and just songs everywhere.
Was Mass long? Like how much longer? Because that would lengthen things.
Yeah, it was about 2 hours.
Yeah.
Unless it was a special day, then it would be about 3. One time the bishop came, and they processed in with like gifts for the bishop. So they had a lamb and a goat and some chickens that they brought to the altar for him. And
Whoa.
That Mass was 3 hours long.
Love it. Can you imagine?
That's so cool.
Can you imagine? You said that you're this visiting professor, the professor who is sponsoring it, supervising it, was asking these questions about identity. Have you ever thought about what that trip would have been like? I mean, I wonder, like, what would that trip have been like had that piece not been inserted into it?
Yeah, I think I probably would have thought about identity a lot less and would have maybe experienced the differences between me and the community I was in on a more superficial level rather than taking it into the heart and actually reflecting on who am I and what do I believe.
What's like really important?
Yeah.
Like, who do I want to be? Or that
yeah. And how is my life reflecting that? How is what I'm doing and the choices I'm making helping me to become this person or leading me to grow in these areas?
Yeah, it seems like a lot of times those kind of turning points become like paradigms or even templates for the way that God kind of attracts us, but then also the questions that we want to then ask others. How have you seen that question of identity kind of play out, not just in your time in Ghana and what that led you to reflect on, but also as you've been called as a full-time missionary now for many years, and even as it started as a student? How has that question followed you and been a part of the work that you've been doing? Not just for your life, but really for others. Yeah,
I think that moment or those moments in Ghana were a launching point for a deeper conversion that God wanted to have in my life. And that question followed me when I came back to the U.S. And I like searched for the answer in a lot of different ways before I ended up actually coming to the Lord and saying, okay, like I'm ready. Like I'm ready to make some serious changes with my life. And I see it in my friends and my peers and in the students that I get to be friends with too on campus. I see we're all searching for our identity and what it means, who we are, what makes us special, like why are we here? And that answer can only be found in God. And that's part of the reason I am a missionary, is because I found that truth. And I desire for women who seek it in a variety of areas to actually come to know Jesus more and to know that that's where the truth of their identity lies, that they are daughters of a father, daughters of a king. And I want to continue to grow in that as well, which I think is also why I'm a missionary. I need the accountability.
Yeah. So yeah, like moving forward. I mean, I know you work with like a lot of women on campus and get to lead a lot of them. So for people who are like kind of like later in their college years or have like just graduated, I guess what is your piece of advice that you would give them, even particularly like in this area of like their identity and like searching for that?
That's a great question. I would say, I mean, if you haven't taken this question to the Lord or a person of faith who believes in the Lord, like, what are you waiting for? I mean, God is the answer. And I think there's a lot of wrestling that we have to do before that, and to not be afraid of wrestling with some beliefs that we might hold or wrestle with some healing that we need to have. But yeah, to as fast as you can take that question to the Lord.
Do you ever find that the answer is like people sort of, I don't know, balk at the simplicity of it? That they're like, wait, there's got to be more than just I'm a son or I'm a daughter. And sort of, you know, like, so how do we help demonstrate that, like kind of demonstrate that important, like why is that so significant? I mean, we all have the experience on some level of being the daughter or son of some parents. So it's a paradigm we all understand. But why do you think that is such an important kind of unlock for people? And what might people be tempted to misunderstand about that?
Yeah, something that
where do people kind of get off as they kind of off the tracks with that?
Yeah. Something I see often in myself and in others is that we're tempted to find our worth in what we do and what we accomplish, and probably have experiences, wounding experiences from our own earthly parents that make it difficult for us to believe or understand that a father could love us unconditionally. And so I see, even when the answer is so simple, men and women saying, but there must be something else that I have to do. Mm-hmm. And I am trying to pray, but I must not be doing it right. The answer can't be that simple. It must be more complicated. But I think we do. I think we do overcomplicate it a lot. And lately I just have been reflecting, especially during my time in Minnesota, how God really is just inviting us to love. And at the foundation of what it means to have a father in heaven is that we are loved. And that's what it means to be a daughter, is that I'm loved. And how can I reflect that but by loving other people and expressing to them that they are loved, not just by me, but by a father in heaven, and just like expressing that as much as I can, and pointing them toward that and encouraging them that it doesn't matter what you do. It matters that you receive that love first and foremost, and then we can talk about what to do.
Was that transition hard for you? Because I know you to be a really talented person. I bet you had some aspirations, if you will, to accomplish, and you're accomplishing a ton of things, right? But like you would have been a high achiever. I bet you got like straight A's in high school, just a guess. You might have been, you're probably valedictorian. I don't know.
Not quite, but
you were up there.
Yeah.
Top 5. I know it. I just know it. So you're an achiever.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. How have you reconciled, like how hard was that to kind of go from achieving to receiving? Like that's like, you know, for high achievers, this sort of posture of just receiving that truth. Because there's nothing you can't earn sonship, you know? It just is. I am my parents' son. I did nothing to earn that.
Yeah.
And yet I think we still try to earn it in other ways, like to live up to it. And how did you reconcile? Because again, I just perceive you as an achiever.
Oh yes, I am a big achiever. I think it's one of my top 5 strengths is achieving. And on top of that, I'm extremely competitive. So
I know it. Yeah. We've done a lot of training things together, and you're never satisfied with the simple answers I might put out there. Hey, Katie, what do you say we just do this? She's like, yeah, I think it could maybe be a little better. I'm like, that was a great idea. No, I'm just messing with you. No, but you really push towards a certain excellence and perfection, and I've always appreciated that about you. But I'm kind of struck by maybe the challenge of having that kind of achieving mindset and going into this sort of son or daughter mindset, which really is absent of achievement.
Yeah, I think it has been and is a challenge to want to do things for the Lord rather than just be with him first. And I think something I have to check myself on, and I'm grateful to have sisters in my life that encourage me in regularly so that I don't slip back into this achievement mentality when it comes to my relationship with God. But to be honest, when you first asked, the thing that crossed my mind was, I think the thing that was most helpful is realizing that there are people that are better than me and smarter than me and holier than me, more talented than me, and learning to, rather than strive to be better, accept myself for who I am and accept my gifts and my weaknesses for what they are, and pray the litany of humility a lot, and just be okay with this is where I'm at. And rather than having my eyes on other people to measure myself or to assess how I'm doing or where I'm at, to actually just look to the Lord and ask him, what are you asking me to do or not do? Where are you calling me to be or go, or where are you inviting me to lead or whatever?
So before we get to the hot seat, because we have a few hot seat questions coming, I want to turn that last question even now on its head. How has this gift of achieving sort of, how has God used that for the work you've been doing? How has he leveraged that sort of ability to get things done, to focus towards a goal? How has he sort of elevated and sanctified, if you will, that gift and used that in mission?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think having been at many different campuses, one of the common themes that I have seen in the work that I've been able to do is that usually there's something that we're trying to build. On one campus, we were trying to build a culture of evangelization and outreach to our peers. And on another, we were trying to build our household community and students' investment in living in household and living the communal life together. And on another campus, trying to build up a rich culture of sisterhood. And I think the Lord inspires me with a vision of what could be. And I'm just all right, let's get it done, and spring to action, and love to collaborate and work with different people. But I think my ability to execute and to achieve really helps goals and visions to be actualized, and for structures to come into place so that it's not me just doing something cool for 2 years and then I leave, but I always try and keep in mind, how can this be sustained beyond me? How can this outlive me? And how can I create an impact and raise up young women to take my place if I leave or if I'm gone? So I think that is probably how my achieving has played out in my work and in the mission.
I can totally see it. I can totally see it. Cool. Ready for some hot seat action?
I'm ready.
All right, Emma, kick us off here.
All right. What is something that makes you just laugh out loud?
Laugh out loud. Probably silly videos or silly jokes.
Can you remember the last one
that? Do you know the game Apples to Apples? My favorite thing is when people give you a card that makes no sense, when it's the adjective you're trying to describe and they just give you a random card. That's what came to mind.
That's so funny.
I love apples to apples.
It's a good
Such
one. Classic.
Game. I love it. So, favorite appliance?
Oh.
Like just, what's your favorite appliance on planet Earth?
So
Can't live without.
For Christmas, I just got one of those big kitchen stand mixers. You know, like with the thing that mixes it for you with a bowl. That's probably my favorite.
It's next level.
Awesome.
Have you? What
so
have
cool.
you made in it?
I haven't made anything in it yet because I have been gone. So I got it for Christmas and then went to Florida. So I didn't have it with me. But I really like to bake bread, and it's really helpful for the
for
dough
kneading.
hook. Helps you to knead.
Do you have a
bread
good, like, do you have a bread recipe that you're like, this is money? I feel like you'd be a recipe person.
Yeah, actually, my chocolate chip cookie recipe is money.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a secret recipe.
Show notes, anyone?
I mean, it's a secret recipe. So maybe if you're lucky, it'll
leave
be
out
in
a
the
couple
show notes.
ingredients.
Yeah. How much sugar? I don't know.
Yeah. Take a guess.
That's awesome. Love it.
That's so fun. How many instruments do you play?
So that's a great question. I would list that I am proficient at playing guitar, though I also have in a worship setting played the cajon or percussion, keys and bass, and I sing. So yeah, bass guitar.
All.
Wait a minute. I feel like I could see you playing an upright bass before I can see you like.
Really?
Yes.
Oh wow, thank you. I'm not that good, but
yeah, no, I just love it. Somebody had mentioned, I think, Connor. Yeah,
you played at Ascend, right?
You played at the women's session.
I played at the women's session. Usually, so I was laughing after because another woman and I were like, "Well, that was so fun to play with a group like that in a setting like that, and I'll probably never do it again because I'm pretty mediocre and I don't know of anyone who's going to be knocking down my door for the amount of talent I have to offer."
Well, and it seems kind of like once you get like 3 instruments in, you may as well play 12. What is it? It's like, I speak 3 languages, or 12. You know, it's just once you get like your third one, because anybody could play 1 instrument, maybe 2, but like when you hit 3, you can basically play them all.
Yeah, that like baseline knowledge.
Especially with guitar. I mean, that's really helpful and an easy entryway into like percussion or bass, because bass is basically the same. You're just playing the bass notes, and with guitar you need to have rhythm, and so that's helpful for percussion as well.
The last question. Earlier in this season of All My Life, we interviewed a young man named Josiah.
Oh yes.
Word on the street is you guys are in a relationship.
A very serious relationship, apparently.
And sometimes this man would sport a mustache.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do.
Mustache or no mustache for Josiah? Like, what's the call? Like, if you had to make one call for the rest of your lives that you're dating.
Oh, man.
And you only get one call.
Only one?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there needs to be like a drum roll.
I know. I'm trying to think of what the right answer is.
No. You are independent. You've got your own thoughts about this. No pressure.
I would probably say no mustache.
Good call, I think.
Doesn't mean I didn't like it. I just think practically for maintenance, though I think were he to be an old man, the mustache would be an awesome move. So if I had to choose now for the rest of my life, maybe I would say mustache.
Oh, I see some ambivalence. I think there's opportunities here. We could go either way.
Yeah.
I love it.
Looks like we might be running out of time, too.
On that note. Awesome. Well, Katie, it's been an honor and a joy to be with you. Thanks so much for sitting down with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was great.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
You can catch us on YouTube if you want to see the video version of this podcast, or on any podcast platform. Take your pick.
All the podcast platforms. What's your favorite one, Emma?
Spotify.
I'm an Overcast guy. Where do you listen to podcasts?
Spotify for sure.
Yeah. 2 to 1, Ryan.
You can join our family plan.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.